Bueno, mi gente, hoy es lunes de Excel Academia, como dice la profe, de metaverso. Lunes de metaverso y tenemos una invitada muy especial y lo mejor es que va a ser en inglés. Ella viene de Islandia, de Reykjavik. Yo estuve por allá hace unos 10 años y vamos a ver, hacerle más preguntas sobre realidad virtual. ¿Están listos? Traigamos a la profe. Uf, profe, ¿cómo
Pues,
estás?
hola, muy bien, aquí con mucho frío. Estoy en los Países Bajos. ¿Y tú cómo estás? ¿Cómo está el clima?
Uy, aquí está haciendo bochorno, o sea que va a llover pronto, prontísimo.
¿Ah, sí? Bueno, ya mejor dicho, ya casi nos vamos para Colombia, pero
Casi.
hoy tenemos una invitada muy especial. Ella se llama Lenke Meyer. Ella tiene un
Ujú.
proyecto muy lindo en el cambio climático, pero ella es holandesa, sin embargo, ella vive en Islandia. Entonces, vamos a traerla, van a practicar el inglés. Igual en el video de este podcast, ustedes van a poder ver los subtítulos en el futuro
Así es.
en español. Pero mientras tanto, ustedes pueden practicar su inglés y hacer preguntas en inglés.
Así es,
Entonces,
así que a la una, a las dos y a las tres. Hey Lamke, welcome.
hello, how are
Hello,
you?
buenos días.
How are you?
I'm really good. As you said, I can understand a little bit of Spanish, but yes, I am
Awesome.
in Iceland. It's you're complaining that it's cold, but it's probably not as cold as that it's here. So, yeah, we're woolen sweater all the way now this season.
Nice.
Yeah. In
The- but
Colombia,
well,
is is not too cold. I think how many degrees?
now we are at 18 degrees.
That's summer.
And 11. And then I feel so cold, and I want to go to Medellín now in Colombia. Be a little bit warm.
Nice.
But okay. So Lenke, Danny, you are curious who is Lenke?
Yes, I am very curious. When I talked to her before, she told me about she was in Iceland. I love Iceland, not only because auroras borealis, but because it's a great place to be. Tell us more about you, Lemke. Who are you?
Yeah. So I am an interaction designer by trade. I studied in the Netherlands actually. And I moved to Iceland about 8 years ago on adventure, so to speak. And I came to work at this wonderful company called Gagarin. And here we make interactive exhibits for museums and exhibitions.
Wow.
And I've been working here now for 8 years. And I am responsible for creating concepts for like large museums in terms of all the interactive experiences. And since virtual and mixed reality came into the market, we've always been trying to explore how to use that. And so since a couple of years, I've been designing for mixed reality, but always with a background of like storytelling and education. And within this company that I work, we started a project by ourselves called Astrid. And Astrid is all about climate education, which we are doing through mixed reality. And this is a project that we initiated ourselves because a lot of our projects and our work is always for nature related subjects like exhibitions about whales or reindeer, birds, natural history museums, dinosaurs, bones, things like that. So through all the knowledge that we basically gained over the years, you cannot talk about these subjects if you're not talking about climate change. And over the
Wow.
years, we learned so much about climate change that we initiated our own project, which is Astrid. And I have been the lead designer for that project, which is focused on youth and educating youth about climate change without, you know, putting the finger, like you should do this and that. It's very much more about empathy, critical thinking, and those kind of things.
Wow.
Awesome. That is a great project, and I bet you could show us something in Medellin. Are you taking like some parts so you can show us, or
No,
what?
he's staying in Iceland, but in the future, he can go
In
to
the future,
Colombia.
I would hope
Ah,
definitely to bring it. Yes.
yeah, that would
Yeah,
be
because
amazing.
I think it's very interesting the project she have because it's about climate change. So she have a very beautiful project, like We want to know what she's doing, and then because this year we start with the line of climate change XR in Colombia. So we have this year politics, innovative politics. Where we have more climate change, we have art and social impact, we have startups, but it's very beautiful. Like we started talking about sustainability. Yeah, no, Daniel, we can show a little bit of the XR Academia.
Of course, we are inviting everyone to join us to Medellin from 8 to 10 of November in the University of EAFIT. Do you know EAFIT?
No,
No, that's why
sorry.
you have to need to come to Medellin.
Yeah. So this year we opened this topic about the climate change with ETSAR and how we can apply this in education. So we invite Alenke today to tell us about more the project, and also we can put this one small part of what she's talking today in the event, so you can see her.
Yes.
And once you see again the podcast, it's a little bit short, but she can be invited. Also, she can be in the metaverse. So if you want to meet her, it's very good. And then, Lenke, tell us a little bit more about your project about climate change. I think the people are so curious. Briefly, not everything. Just tell a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So very briefly, it's we always see it as a suite, like a product suite, where we created the first game, which is a 5-player role-playing game. So it's for 5 people at the same time using virtual reality headsets. And they're in the same space in a fixed location. The idea is that you debate actions and come up, like try to convince each other to take an action or not. But the consequences are also displayed in the form of like how effective is the action actually for the planet, but also how happy would it make the people of the planet, and how costly would something like that be. So instead of only saying yes or no to a certain action and move on, we really focus on the consequences as well, which pushes the youth to balance their decision making. So that is like the core game that we have, and now we're developing other themed virtual experiences, where the first one is focusing on the ocean, and here we focus more on empathizing and knowledge building about the Arctic Ocean specifically, here in the north.
Awesome. So you said that you were working with mixed reality, right? What kind
Yeah.
of technologies of mixed reality are you using, so we can have like a great idea of
Yes.
how could be?
So we use Oculus Quest as goggles. The new Quest will have more see-through possibilities, but we have not yet. We haven't got that yet. So the way we dealt with it now is that what you see is all virtual. Everybody is has an avatar, so that allows you to actually take on a role, to step into someone else's shoes and play this character, basically. And but we want people to debate, so you can still hear each other. So your voice is basically for real, and you are represented in space in the virtual world. And that's how we sort of mixed, sort of the all virtual headset of the Quest with how we networked them all 5 together and placing them in the right spot in the space. So we created these mats that people have to stand on, so they can't walk around too much, and that way you can still look each other in the eye, so to speak, but in this virtual world.
Awesome. So it's like a multiplayer scene virtual reality experience. Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, I can tell you a bit more about it. It's like there's 5 people who get like a very high level introduction to climate change and its causes and what we need to do about it. And then we created like 10 hypothetical actions, and all these actions, that was actually, I think, the most challenging part of the design, because when you ask people what should we do about climate change, it's always like, oh, we should all drive an electric car or something like that, like these sort of things that have been around so much that there's very little imagination left for these actions specifically. So we wanted to stay away from that, and we focused instead on sort of weird actions. like one of the actions, for example, is you have to be in the climate army for 1 year after high school. So it's like the idea of, you know, your duty that many countries used to have, but instead of doing that for sort of protection of the country or war, the kind of mentality is more about, okay, how can we preserve our country's climate or in the world, et cetera, et cetera. So 1 year you would learn about the climate and how to take action towards it, which is like some sort of out of the box idea where it becomes easier to discuss this. So we have 5 people and we give one person the power to decide, yes, we're accepting this action or we're going to decline. And what happens is that we create these actions in such a way that they're a bit bizarre, a bit weird, a bit funny, but also very widely interpretable. So it's easy to, like, some people would really agree and disagree. So we wanted to create as much debate as possible, because the research that we've been doing also points out that debate and discussion is very effective in climate education. So we wanted to really create an opportunity where we would sort of very much force that into it in a way. So by giving one person the power, the other people would immediately try to convince that person of their opinion. And that way it works very differently. And I think this is like one of the keys of the game, of the design of the game, that I think many people would do that differently in a sort of, you know, like the first thing you would think is like, let's do this democratically. Everybody gets buttons. We're all going to vote. But what you create then is that there's no debate, right? There's
discussion.
You just decide, you put something and you wait and you can see what happens. And now, because we give one person the power, you just really drag people out of their shell and they will have to start, you know, trying to convince this person. So with each action, the power of decision making is moving around and is like someone else has the power. So no one is left out and everybody needs to make a decision and participate in the debate, so to speak.
Awesome. And more on this experience that you're designing, is it like local based, like everyone puts the headset in the same place, or can you be connected in Iceland and me in Medellin or in Bogota?
That is, of course, like all possible. Like the status of the game right now is in a prototype phase. We are now we have tested it with over 200 youth, both here in Iceland and in Denmark. And right now we are in the process of expanding it. So we're now adjusting some of the actions to the Nordics specifically, but we always designed it for the classroom. So it would be 5 students inside the classroom where other students would probably be doing other things. So it's very much focused on people being in the same place, in the same location.
Yeah, because I was thinking it would be amazing, like to give like a little showroom of your project in Medellin, no? Because you know that.
Yeah, we have the place now.
We have the place, we have the goggles, and it would be amazing, like to at least, maybe not connected simultaneously, but at least have like like you said, a prototype, so people can see how they can teach how to understand climate education, no? Because I remember when I was little in school, the internet was the first thing it existed, no? In command line, and you connected with an Australian guy and you say hi, and that connection, that bonds that you don't know, but it creates like a new friendship and new I don't know how, speculation of people around the world, you know?
Yeah.
So it could be like a great moment, but obviously no pressure now. Whatever you say.
Daniel already want to have it make a friends in Iceland already.
Yes, it would be amazing.
It would be amazing. I just don't know if the prototype is ready. Like I said, I'm a designer very much. I'm not the programmer, so I can ask, but I'm not going to make any promises here that I can't do.
In the podcast, no soy, recuerden. Okay, Lenke, we have a very new audience where is not aware what is the virtual reality actually. So can you give a small definition, your own definition, easy definition for everyone to don't have a knowledge about what is virtual reality, the virtual reality, climate change, what is this? So
Yeah.
you can help us to explain to the people in easy words. No, imagine it's for you ounce or someone don't use technology.
Okay, I can do that. Virtual reality specifically. So there's a lot of terms out there. People are talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality, and they all have different letters and abbreviations. But I think like the most important to understand is like you use a certain technology, like basically glasses or like the ski goggles, but then with like little screens in them, and that basically gives a different input on your eyes. So everything you see is another world. When you talk about mixed reality, augmented reality, it's usually that you see the world that is around you and we add objects in it. So I'm looking around the room and all of a sudden I see a duck floating by because that is then the virtual object that we added to your environment. And with virtual reality, you basically create a whole different world. And the wonderful thing about that is that you can enter worlds that are not accessible to you normally. You could see inside a spacecraft or under the ocean or things like that.
Or travel to Iceland and meet new people.
Exactly.
And go to the Blue Lagoon. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful, like the pictures. Yeah, but actually, Lenke told me for that she went to Colombia. Yeah,
Yes, I
you
did.
can tell us a little bit your story, like you came to Colombia, you already know, or how was your experience in our country?
It was beautiful. When you're in Europe and you say, I want to travel to Colombia, people are like, oh, is that safe? But I never worried actually. I went with my friend and we went for 5 weeks. So we spent a lot of time. We could really explore places. I think I'm not sure if I can remember all the places that we went to, but there was like these beautiful red sand, desert, mud, weird landscapes or something that was amazing. We went to Cali because I just before we left, I managed to get myself a wonderful boyfriend, and his best friend
In
was
Colombia
marrying
or in
a
here?
Colombian woman. So
Yeah.
no. So this was back in the Netherlands
Yeah, okay.
years ago, 11 years ago, I think. So I went with my friend to Colombia, and just before we went to Colombia, I got myself a boyfriend, and his best friend was marrying a Colombian woman. So that same year, I went again in the summer to attend the wedding of that friend in Cali. So I actually also experienced a really beautiful wedding in Colombia in Cali. So yeah, we gained the whole family with her, which was amazing, and it was so beautiful to be able to to visit all these wonderful places. And her family was like really interesting, like nature fanatics and like birding, and we went to see birds, and I think her dad like raised a condor or something, and it was so amazing to get all these stories and to join the family on these very beautiful places, and also to learn more about the country from a different perspective, because when you're outside of a culture, it's very easy to sort of just get a very superficial picture. And by being there, we understood that it's way more complex. And I mean, there's a lot of good work being done. So yeah, and then I don't know, and then going to the north as well. And then we went on this tiny boat to like the border with Panama even. I don't know, like I've been I've went all over, and I was just so impressed because everything was so different, beautiful, and so nice. Also, such kind people everywhere.
Mm.
Awesome.
Do you recommend something to eat in Colombia?
I am a vegetarian, so
Yes,
or drink.
or drink, yeah. Well, we had a lot of drinks, yeah. Yeah, well, like the caipirinhas and things like that, obviously.
we have
Yeah.
aguardiente.
Aguardiente, yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, small memory.
Oh, and we were like, this family also took us out dancing, and now
Mhm.
I'm a very tall Dutch woman, and then I felt really weird in this, like, and everybody was moving so beautifully, like on the rhythm, and like everybody moved like it was like one organism. I was amazed. I was so impressed. It was so
Nice.
nice. Yeah.
Yes. So how tall are you?
1 meter, 81 centimeters.
Ooh.
You're tall. Not as me, but you're tall.
Yeah.
In the medium of Colombian, really tall.
Yeah. I know.
I feel like I'm tall for the average 162, but if I be next to
Yeah.
like no. Actually, I gave a class in the Dutch classroom, no. So in general, the women in here are very tall, and sometimes I need to see like these my students. So I have a statistic class, and I say, okay, let's talking about average, supposedly, no? And then, what do you think? I'm very tall, I'm very small, or an average okay, in the
What
long.
part of the world?
Yeah, yeah. So I was imagining because they are so tall, then they say, "No, teacher, you are small." I expecting this because all the time they told me here and I'm small. So I say to them, and the woman say, "No, teacher, you are average."
Oh.
What is it? And I say, "No, it's because the reason she says average is because she is very small too." And she is
Yeah.
enough, and she was like 182. And I would say, no, I change the opinion is because she's very polite.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the
No,
woman's in
but
the
we
Netherlands.
know we are tall. It's like I also lived in Spain for a while, and it was just like, yeah, you just deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could like it was easy in the club, when we go dancing, you always see where everybody was
Or
because
in a concert. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Very nice. And Lenke, we are curious how what was your motivation to start to working with the climate change in ETSAR. So I don't know how you combine both topics in one.
Mhm.
How was which one come first? Because
The discovery.
yeah, or you first start with the ETSAR and then you say, ah, climate change can be cool, or
No, no, actually, well, so for the work we do here at Gagarin,
mhm.
we always make interactive experiences. So we always look for different, basically, tools to explain complex stories. And we had been looking at mixed reality, augmented reality for a long time, but like the hardware, like whether it was accessible or not. But now, because hardware is more affordable, we were able to use it more. Um, so then we started basically exploring and doing more R&D within this field because it is a very new and different field. Like we use a lot of sensors, moving parts, tangible interactions, things that, with like using
Haptics,
it
no?
Connect or
Yeah.
sorry?
With haptics, like
Yeah,
you
haptics as
can feel.
well. Yeah, like different kind of, buttons or big spinning tables or gesture interaction. So we use a lot of these different technologies, and then finally we felt like, okay, we can now make this step to mixed reality. But what I like very often when I looked at what the things were that were out there, like everything is very game oriented, right? It's very,
Yeah.
there's levels and there's like everything is beautifully made, or it's a 360 video. So I really always tried like, okay, what is this medium and what can I do with the medium? Like, how can the medium work for me? instead of seeing the medium as the goal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like if the medium is the end goal, then I don't think you make the most use of the medium itself, right? So what is the idea? What do we want to communicate? And why does this medium fit with that? So in this sort of climate, when we moved on to the climate education, we always talked about like, okay, we do not want to keep focusing on why we got here. We very much want to focus on where are we going, because I think we can repeat the science, etc. But I think like most people by now know that it's a pressing cause, at least definitely in my environment. I know that it's not the same everywhere in the world, but and if you, at least in my environment, if you do not think climate change is a thing, it's usually like a political thing or something, you know. So like climate change is there, and like how can we use, you know, what do we want to teach? And we felt that when researching how we can educate about climate change, you know, there were things like what is like the debate aspect is very important, having different perspectives, all those kind of things. And then also looked at, okay, what are the benefits of VR? Like what can VR give you that another medium can't? And that was then the zone in which we searched for these, you know, for the game that we eventually made. So we need you. Oh yeah. So I always try to dissect a little bit, like how to get somewhere, right? I don't want to just use VR because it's a cool thing. No, I have a purpose, and VR has its qualities. So where do these overlap, and how can I elaborate on that?
Awesome.
And that's how we came up with this. And this is like, okay, I get to play a character here. So I'm an avatar. It makes me feel as a person I'm safe in this debate because I'm playing this character, right? So it's less me, but it's still me because I use my voice. Creating this environment, we can explain and illustrate certain things that are not visible to the eye. Like in the introduction, for example, we talk about tons of CO2. This is something that is so abstract and is always in the newspaper. It's like 100 tons or 1,000 or 2, or and then you're like, okay. It's like, I don't know, reading a money from a country you've never heard of. You don't know if one is a lot or very little, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we tried to visualize that. So we created these sort of bubbles of CO2 in this virtual space, and you can actually look around you and see, okay, this is how much we emit per person per year, and this is what we should be emitting. And then you can see the difference. It's like, and that is something that really speaks, and that is how we can use the benefits of the virtual space here.
Surely, because what you are doing is data visualization through virtual reality, so that people can understand the impact of climate, no, of what we are emitting in our not contribution for climate change. So
so that is like a part of this specific experience. And now we're moving on to the next experience, which is themed on the Arctic Ocean. And here again, we look at what is the quality of virtual reality, and we did like a very extensive research with youth here in Iceland to see what is their current knowledge about the Arctic Ocean. How do they perceive the ocean? What do they think the ocean means to them, et cetera, et cetera. And we had really interesting outcomes there, because everybody cares, but it doesn't really show about like on their knowledge skills, or you know, it's like it felt like there was like a big gap there of like what they think they know and they actually know, and also how important it is, but also how much they empathize with the ocean. And then, excuse me, this world that we can create, we can really let them enter a place that they would never be able to get to, right? Like the open ocean in the Arctic, the deep to dark. And if you can enter that through virtual reality, it gives you like a different perspective. It shows you a world that you can't see normally.
Like it allows you to understand how you can contribute by, I don't know, recycling better your garbage, no? With that.
Yeah, so that is like very much in the questions, like the actions game, and in the ocean is very much focused on empathy, so understanding very complex systems in the ocean. So one thing that I think we do not always realize, but if you look at the ocean, if we humans look at the ocean, we look at the surface of the water. But the ocean is actually super, super deep. Like it's much deeper than the Mount Everest is high, right?
Yeah.
It's like crazy deep.
Yeah.
And like
unknown.
so like most places, also in the Arctic Ocean, is like a few kilometers deep, of which the last kilometers are just pitch black. So organisms that live there, the systems that are in place, how organisms don't like live also in a vertical spectrum. Like every land creature is always bound by gravity to the floor, right? Where we can jump, or maybe a bird can fly, or a plane can fly, but in the end we're always standing on the ground. But in the ocean, there's the ability to go up and down and live in different depths, and organisms adapt to those depths. And also, the way nutrients are dispersed through the ocean, all the oceans are connected. The ocean's influence on the climate are huge, and the climate on the oceans, and specifically the Arctic, and the influx of cold water. So this is what we wanted to focus on, to really sort of become more connected to these sort of systems that make the ocean what it is, and then also understanding it's like why it has such a big role to play in climate education in general.
Totally. This is really, really like a tough challenge, no? To understand how to use technology as a tool, and to use it as a medium to communicate and create that empathy that you are telling us. In that words, what could you say that could have been like the biggest challenges that you overcome building this experience?
Technology, always, like you're always dealing with like like the definition.
Not want to behave.
Sorry?
They don't want to behave.
Yes, exactly. It's like you want to make it like very detailed, and you can't, because you're like bound to the computing power of the headset, and you do not want it to be tethered, which means you don't want the headset to have to be connected to the computer, because then it makes it less, less free. So it's always a challenge. Like I would love it for this ocean experience as well to be as realistic as possible, the visuals. But it's just like, we're talking about
too much
Marvel movie, budgets. So we could never do that. So the challenge is to how can we create an aesthetic that you can take seriously, that is reflecting reality, but does not become too cartoony, because our target group is very much 14 to 18 years old. So it's the tough target group, so to speak. But if we make it too cartoony, they might not take it serious. If we make it too boring, it's just boring. So actually a very nice approach, I think, that we now have for the Ocean Project, we're just starting the work now, is that like one of the things that we learned so we always do target group research, where we interview and do group sessions or surveys and things like that, but we also do a lot of literature research to see like, okay, what have others done in this field, where can we find papers, and learn from that. So one big challenge was like how to teach ocean empathy. And one what we found out through the surveys is that all the students really love the animals, right? What do you want to learn more about the ocean? Oh, more about my favorite animal. They love the charismatic megafauna, as we call it, which is like the whale, the seal, etc., etc. But one student even said, oh, the little fish, they don't matter so much, right? So we could see that there was like a sort of a lack of knowledge. I'm not saying that they're stupid or anything. That's not what I mean. I very much mean that there's a knowledge gap that should not be hard to sort of fill. So we found out that like we really needed to focus on empathizing with the creatures, with all of the creatures, but also with sort of the bigger complex systems. So one of the things, for example, we learned was like, okay, well, if they like these big whales and all these nice creatures, use that as a bridge to talk about more complex systems. So do not just discard the whale, like, oh, they know enough about the whale, let's not focus on it. No, take the whale as a starting point for maybe a more complex story. And the same for anthropomorphization, which is an impossible word, but that means that you give human attributes to an organism. And I think, do you know SpongeBob SquarePants or something?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, anyway, that is a sea sponge, but completely anthropomorphized. So because it has eyes, a mouth, little hands and everything. So it's been made into a character. So it has gotten a lot of human traits. But using some sort of anthropomorphization really helps into sort of getting closer to a creature and empathizing more with them. So for this ocean game, basically what we did is like we took like, for example, the whale or something, or a sea pen, like, which is a sort of coral. So let's take the sea pen, and we gave them a character. So the sea pen is like a colony of microorganisms, and we gave them a character, very sweet and soft and giggly. And then we added a voice to it, which sounds like a choir. So it's like this sort of singing choir kind of voice. And then we would use humor in the dialogue. So we basically meet these creatures and they take us into these sort of stories of a bit more complex systems. And each of these sort of organisms has a different character. So the one is like very sassy, like, what? Or you don't know about me, something like that. And the other one is like, oh, no one ever sees me, and has like sort of pretty complex. And it all sort of translates to, the stories they're telling and the role they play in the ocean.
Awesome that you've been able to like personalize, like humanify animals so they can connect better with the youth audience. No,
yes,
it's a great tool that you have been done, and that we have seen like in movies of Disney and in this kind of big broadcasters, that they use this type of I don't know, strategy so they can connect better with kids. No?
Yeah.
Amazing. What do you think? What advice do you think you could give to youth, to young people, that they could like start doing to learn more about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality? No, because maybe they also have that question about life. How can I share about my surroundings and how to take care of them? No, maybe someone thinks about this but doesn't know how to start learning of this technology.
Yeah. So like there's different ways to learn, mixed reality. And if you connect it even to climate change, there is a lot of, like, I would definitely first try things out. There is a lot of beautiful things out there. And I tried once something called Tree, where you embody a tree being like growing and then being threatened by a forest fire. Yeah. And I thought that was very interesting and beautiful because it was a very slow experience, and it used VR in a different way because you embody a tree. So something that is standing still. At some point you have branches and there is a bird landing on you or something. And it was just so beautiful and very well done. And it's so different from all the game-like experiences in VR that I really liked how tranquil it was. It was a very beautiful storytelling.
I think I found it. I think it's called treeofficial.com. It is a virtual reality experience, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really beautiful.
And this is also they inspire me too, because the embodiment, the tree, and I remember many years ago, and I say, I don't know if you can embody a tree, so you can embody an animal. So it was
Yeah,
very hard to embodiment an animal, because I try to do where the link say about try to don't change like humanize the animal. So I try to make like animal like walking in four legs, and the people was so sick, because they in the normal the people can no walk in four legs. You're walking
yeah,
in two legs. So when you use the virtual reality, my animal was a bear, because you need to walk in like this, but everyone was so sick. So I
yeah,
was trying to stand up, show the hands, and don't make the possibility that you see all the time to the floor. So you need to see
yeah,
like from. So this is very like change. But Lenke, if you need to give advice to the people that are a little bit more adult, and
yeah.
it's a little bit scary to use. I don't know if you have in Iceland people more grown up and they like to have a project. I don't know, the director of the school, of the mayor, and you say, "Hi, man, this virtual reality is very cool. You can teach climate change," and they are like, "What can be the advice to this kind more grown up people, more older people? What is the advice to them?"
Well, if we talk about like our, the people who would be using our games, we are talking to schools and municipalities and mayors, indeed. So the way we basically talk about the things that we make is that if you look at education in general, you have biology or language or all those kind of things. These are sciences that are already based on knowledge that has been around for a long time, and this knowledge is not changing much. Obviously you can update it with different cases, but if you look at the climate change education, it's very new, there's not much around, and also with a new sort of approach of teaching, it requires to sort of very much connect different subjects within projects, and we feel very much that our our project sits very well within that space. So it is about collaborating, it's about climate, but it's also about social things, etc., etc. So you learn a lot of different aspects within this sort of education. And also another thing is like, especially with teenagers, they can be so easily distracted that I mean, I
Totally.
think at any generation, but I think in particular teenagers is just part of, their development. But being in virtual reality, like everything that is around you, all the distraction is the teaching, if you know what I mean. So I kind of like that as an argument as well.
They are
And
concentrated. They cannot look other ways.
I mean, they can look other ways and they see other things, but it's
Yeah.
still about the same thing. That is kind of
Yeah.
the point.
Hmm.
And yeah, and to an older audience, like open up and look at, be surprised, just try it out and see what it can give you. You know, it's really magical.
Totally. Lenka, and what do you feel that the new trends, the future of XR could be? Like you that are like looking to these new technologies and new forms of interaction. What do you feel that could be in 5 years? What we can expect?
Mm. I'm not a futurist, but let's put that first. But I do believe that there is so much space, especially, where virtual reality and mixed reality is used more as a tool rather than, the end game.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people believe that we're gonna sit in goggles at home and we're gonna live happily after in the metaverse kind of thing. I'm not there. That's not really, but I think we can find more and more applicate like use cases for the use of virtual reality, like we are really trying to do, like without it being just something for leisure, like a game or something, but also for education or explaining other kind of things. We're using like a lot of with Gagarin, with the company I work at. We use it in exhibitions now a lot, where we can reveal different layers on top of objects, around objects that we tell stories about. We have them placed outside on, you know, heritage sites where you have some ruins of an old, you know, Viking house here in Iceland,
Yeah.
and you reveal how it used to look like back in the day, those kind of things. And I think there's a lot of ways and use cases for the technology that are not aimed at, you know, earning points and winning a game or something like that, I think.
Very interesting. And also, I don't know if someone wants to talk with Lenke, be contact with her, how they can meet you. How you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram, you have Facebook. I don't know. You are too young.
Yeah. You can definitely find me on
And the old
LinkedIn.
fashioned. I have
Yeah.
Facebook.
You can
How
find
can-
me on LinkedIn under Lemke Meijer. And I also have Instagram, but that is like more like a private account. So that is mainly filled with baby pictures. So I don't do that to people. But definitely on LinkedIn, I usually post like a lot about my work and the things that I'm working on.
Nice.
Super. And what is the website of the company of Astrid, or you have a website?
Astrid is astrid.is.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
I
Super.
found it in LinkedIn also.
And
Yeah.
also on LinkedIn, Astrid
Yeah.
Climate Change.
So if you want to contact Lenke, you can go there and just send a message. First you connect, send a message, and then you can talk with her. Perhaps you want to say, hi Lenke, you inspire me, or I want to collaborate with you, or I have more questions about the project you have. Okay. To finish this podcast, we have always the last question of the podcast, and is, can virtual reality change the teaching of climate change in Iceland educational system? This is the
Yes.
question of the
I very, very much believe so. I mean, it's almost like, yes, obviously. I think virtual reality can like influence positively any kind of like education, but I want to add a but, as long as it's done well. And with that, I mean, like if you want to recreate the classroom that you have in real life and put that in VR, I don't really see the point of that. But when you can show people things that are not explainable on a whiteboard, or that you can use a 3D world for, I think it's amazing.
Very nice. And Danny, you want to have the picture?
Ah, yes. Let's take a picture so we can remember this great podcast. Are you ready?
Yes.
I can hear. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Very nice. I'm very happy you be here in this podcast of Tsar Academia. This podcast is Connect Minds. And I remember everyone in here to listen this podcast. We will be in 2 weeks. Yes, in Medellin for 3 days. And then we have 3 days, all the experts about 8 different topics about it's in education. It's a specialization in education. So I hope so. As they can accompany us the next year, we will do again, probably in Bogota. We don't know. So we invite. But in any way, you have now all this podcast, and she's a woman to inspire us to learning more about climate change, because it's really, there are a few content about climate change in education. We use in ETSAR, so this is the very a few cases, but it's very valuable for the society. So I'm very happy to you have the time to come into here today. And I don't know, Daniel, want to add something?
No, Lemke, thank you very much. You are really inspirational, as Alex said. Thank you for being here, and I hope to meet you in Iceland or in Bogota, wherever.
Want to go to Iceland?
Yeah, it's amazing. I really love that country. Really nice.
Well, thank you so much. I love it here too. Yeah. And thank you for having me. It was wonderful to talk to you guys. And I love the questions that you have and letting me speak here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, don't disconnect, Slenka. Así es, profe, qué buena entrevista acabamos de tener. Y ahorita, ¿quién viene? ¿Nos podrías dar un sorpresa?
No, esperen un segundito, ya la sorpresa ya se la digo. Bueno, tenemos hoy a José Cardona. Él tiene una gran experiencia en la creación de realidades extendidas y él tiene una empresa que se llama Polygonus. Es de Medellín, él va a estar en la Universidad EAFIT y está en la misma ciudad donde vamos a hacer el evento. Así que conéctese en 6 minutos.
5 minutos. Ya nos vemos. Chao, chao.
Chao.